It's crazy how fast you can rewire your brain. I went from finishing work at about 2 a.m., coming home, having something to eat, watching a repeat of Jimmy Fallon, sleeping at 4. I went from that to a morning show job for the first time, going to bed at 7 and waking up at 3, which I thought was insane. You're on TV every day on the biggest channel in Canada. I could never leave my place without getting stopped. It was a #1 rated morning show in Canada. Life was good, was not looking to leave.
Well, why did you leave?
Out of the blue, I got an email from a name I didn't recognize. It just said, hey.
Gurdeep Ahluwalia is the popular award-winning Canadian media personality and the host of the Pooja and Gurdeep Show.
He's also a regular on Canada's #1 morning TV show, Breakfast Television.
The amount of changes that are happening in your life, is that something you embrace?
That's a hard question because I lost my father 3 years ago. It was glioblastoma, incurable brain cancer.
Were you guys close?
Yeah, we were super close, man. You know, he was a doctor for 40 plus years. His funeral was standing room only. They opened up the entire place and they couldn't get everyone in the door. So that kind of gave me the perspective of like, you know what? Not everyone gets 78 years, right? It's a cliche, but tomorrow is not guaranteed.
Is there anything you'd want to say to him?
I'm sorry, this is a bit emotional, this story.
We find it very interesting that the majority of you who watch and listen to this show aren't yet subscribed to our channels across Spotify, Apple, YouTube. It would mean the world to us if you can do us that small kindness. It allows us to continue to bring on amazing guests week after week and continue to provide you with amazing value and content. It's the only thing we'll ever ask of you. If you can hit that follow or subscribe button, it would mean the world to us. Thank you so much and enjoy the episode.
I walk by delicious looking pizza. I see it. My brain recognizes it's pizza, which is my favorite food. But I'm like, I don't want that. That's going to make me feel crappy. I've been working really hard. That's going to throw everything off. That looks good, but I'm really looking forward to that tuna salad I got upstairs. It's delicious with my homemade dressing. So it's crazy how fast you can rewire your brain. And cut out salt as well. I was just at my mom's for lunch, and she made chicken tikka, a great Indian dish. One for my brother with salt, one for me without salt. She accidentally got them backwards. I took one bite of the one for my brother, and it tasted so salty, even though it was just regular salt.
Yeah.
But 4 weeks, no salt, one bite, I was like, this is definitely the wrong one. So the taste buds have already recalibrated.
It's incredible how the human body can adapt so quickly. As long as you're disciplined with it, and as long as you give it the opportunity to do the recalibration.
Yes.
It's not going to work if you do it one day, the next you do something different. Like, you've got to consistently. I was reading about how with the keto diet, it takes about 4 weeks before you actually fall into ketosis.
Right.
Otherwise, yes, you're eating healthy for that 4-week window, but your body doesn't adapt until that 4-week marker, at which point you're then in that state of ketosis where your body's burning fat for fuel as opposed to the carbs that are stored in your system.
Yeah, and that's a careful one. You gotta be very careful with keto, because if your macros are off at all, like, you're eating a ton of fat on keto. Yeah. I did it for 2 months a few years ago, and it worked, but I let it go because I felt I didn't have enough energy to work out. But you're eating so much fat, it feels counterintuitive. You're like, how is this giving me a flatter stomach? But if you allow yourself any carbs, there's no cheat days in keto. Like, you can't jump in and out of ketosis. It messes things up. So that one's a little too restrictive for me personally, I found.
I would agree with that too, because when I first discovered it, I was looking for a drastic change to the lifestyle of food that I had. I come from a Middle Eastern background, so it's all rice, potatoes, bread, like every meal without fail. And I decided to try the keto diet, and I kid you not, I think I lost like 40 pounds in 3 months. It was a drastic drop. I went from like 203 to 165 or something like that.
You were 203?
Yeah.
I can't even picture that.
Well, exactly. So I had put on all of this weight. I had a desk job. I was sitting all day. I had very little movement in my life. I was in my head a lot, and food was my comfort.
Yep.
And so all I did was eat. And when I fell into that sort of state of like, there's something wrong, I didn't have the words to articulate. I'm like, I'm not feeling great. I'm feeling a little bit on the depressed side, but I'm not going to say that part out loud. That's when I was like, I need to do something about it. And I was doing some research. I came across the keto diet, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll start there. Maybe I'll change the way I eat. I'll start working out again and all these things. And you're right. It can feel very restrictive. And I've actually just only learned that you actually shouldn't be on it for a prolonged period of time. It's
Right.
one of those diets you can cycle in and out of. Not, every other month, but like you could do it for a couple of months and then take a break for a few months and then do it again if you wanted to.
Right.
And just to sort of rewire the body.
That makes sense. It doesn't seem like the type of thing. And I know there are people who are doing it full time, all the power to you, I suppose. But for me, it didn't feel sustainable beyond the 2 months I did it. I'm glad I saw it through. I'm glad I was in ketosis. I experienced some of the benefits. But I think if you're someone who also doesn't love like working out quite intensely, I think it's pretty good because I found I could do a lot of long, slow jogs, like really slow or long, slow walks. But I couldn't do the sort of HIIT style workouts I was doing at the time. I almost passed out twice trying to do a HIIT style workout because I just didn't have the fuel to get me through it. So it wasn't conducive to what I was looking for at the time.
Well, a lot of those CrossFitters are on keto.
Really?
And so the ones that I was researching, at least at the time, I should preface that it was a while back. And I never understood how they found the energy sources, because as I've started to train for marathon running, the first thing I had to recalibrate in my brain was that I'm going to need to intake carbs.
Yeah.
And for a while, I had this sort of carbs are the enemy approach to things. And as I've started to consume carbs again in a nominal amount, like I don't overindulge in it, I found that it helped with my running because it gave me that fuel source. So I don't quite know what's the equivalent to carbs that's not carbs for running or for those high intensity workouts type of thing. I don't know if you know, but I
didn't stick around long enough in Keto Town to figure that out. I was like, this is cool. I'm a tourist here and I'm going to go home now. Yeah.
So how long have you been on your current health kick?
Started September 1st, so it's been a month. But I think the difference for me with this thing I'm doing is like it's a real holistic approach. So I've always been into taking care of myself, and I think working out has been consistent for my adult life. And by adult life, I'm going to say post 30, because I think I was still probably a child in my 20s in terms of the ways I acted. Working out consistently, but the things I've dabbled in and I've dabbled in consistent stretching, I've dabbled in meditation, I've dabbled in breath work, I've dabbled in healthy eating and different diets. I've never really put everything together. And I think what appeals to me about the program I'm doing now is it's geared to men over 40. I'm 42 years old. So a lot of it is injury prevention. Like instead of waking up at 3:15, I'm waking up at 3 a.m. now to get in foam rolling and stretching, which I thought was insane. But now that I'm doing it, it feels so good. It's so nice to start with my butt and my hamstrings, start the day just limber, loose, feel good, feel ready to move. I've never done all the things at once: the healthy diet, the stretching, the breath work in the morning, the meditation, the stretching before bed, the healthy eating, the supplements, timed out consistently same time every single day. I've never put it all together. And even though I'm only a month in, I feel the benefits of like everything kind of working in harmony. One thing's feeding the other, and everything's kind of working in harmony. I'm the type of person where I'm not intuitive in the kitchen. I'm not a cook. You give me a recipe, I can follow it to a T. I can't improvise. I can't taste a food and tell you, it's missing cardamom. It's missing, like my taste buds are terrible that way. If you give me a plan, a plan from an expert in their field, I can follow it. You give me a workout plan from a trainer, I can follow it. You give me a meal plan from a nutritionist, I can follow it. I can't wing it. And I think for most of my 30s, I was like, I'm working out, I'm going to these classes, and eating a salad, that's cool. Like I wasn't thinking about the house dressing that comes with the salad that's probably got more calories than the meal itself. Yeah. I wasn't thinking about, it's the weekend, I'm going to cheat Friday and Saturday, and I'm going out to the bar, I'm going to drink a bunch. That's fine, I'll get back on it Monday. I never really thought of it as one whole thing working together. I was sort of just working out to rationalize the quote-unquote bad behavior. And one of the pieces I left out is obviously this is a dry program as well. So they encourage you to be dry for the first month. It's a 1-year program. I'm committing to at least 3 months dry. And if I keep feeling good at that point, which I think I will, I'll just roll that forward through the holiday season and beyond. Yeah.
I've been dry now for, let's see, I got married in May.
Didn't drink at your wedding?
No, I did.
Okay,
that was the last time
right.
is what I mean. So I'm counting from there. So June, July, August, September. So 4 months.
And how do you feel?
Incredible. I feel so much different. I sleep better. And even truthfully, outside of the wedding, prior to that, I was barely drinking.
Right.
And it's, I just spent a week in Jordan surrounded by dinners and after parties and all these things. And before that was TIFF, and there are all these after parties and all these things. And at no point did I ever feel this need to just consume alcohol. And It's not to cast judgment on those who are consuming it because, to each his own.
Sure.
That's not the point here.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, physiologically speaking, I feel so much better off of it. I sleep better. I don't feel as tired and groggy for days on end after I've had a long, like after the wedding, because I drank a lot that night.
Sure.
I felt it for at least 3 days. It took me 3 full days to fully recover.
How old are you again?
37.
You're 37, yeah. That's around the time it started taking multiple days to recover for me as well.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to, hopefully you continue with the no booze thing, but if you ever reintroduce it, rude awakening in your 40s, it's almost like a week. Like because I knew I was going dry September 1st, my friends and I, it was a buddy's birthday, we had a big night, August 31st. It was a long weekend.
Yep.
We had a big one on Sunday. I hosted, the guys came over, we started early, we finished late. That was a Sunday. I was not right till Friday in terms of just feeling misaligned, cobwebs in the brain. I was a little slower on the morning show. Guess what? I didn't really get any workouts in that week. I was making bad food decisions. You wake up feeling that low-grade anxiety where you can't really place it because you're like, nothing bad happened. We had a good time, I think, but why do I feel that feeling in the pit of my stomach? And I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball with everything. I don't miss that. And you're so right about the sleeping better. Like sleeping for me is for everybody is currency, but for me, I think I have to prioritize it even more because I get up at 3 a.m. to host a morning show. So that's the other thing I've noticed. I'm now kind of sleeping pillar to post. I try to be in bed by 7:30, asleep by 8. And what used to happen is, you toss and turn a little bit in the night, you get up, maybe you get up to pee. It's another thing in your 40s, you'll enjoy. But that's happening a lot less. Like I fall asleep and I'm generally out until the alarm goes off. So it's better. It's the same amount of time, but it's better sleep.
Yeah. How do you find the discipline to wake up at 3 a.m?
I've been doing it for 13 years now. And it's still insane. Like it's actually harder, I think, for people. Like we have people who sort of like parachute into our show to fill in if someone's off, and they're like, they come in looking like a zombie, and like, how do you do this every day? This is crazy. And I say to them, I go, this is way harder for you than it is for me because you're doing this for a day or a week, so your body's like trying to adjust, going, what is this? Is this the new norm? When I took a morning show job for the first time when I was 30 years old, I guess. I was coming off doing sports, which was all late nights. So for about 6 weeks, I went from finishing work at about 2 a.m., coming home, having something to eat, watching a repeat of Jimmy Fallon, sleeping at 4, waking up at noon. I went from that to going to bed at 7 and waking up at 3. And for 6 weeks, I was like, did I make a horrible decision? Because I felt like a complete zombie. I'm like, I'm not performing on the air like these guys probably thought I would. And then something clicked in, and then your body becomes used to it. And I will say, having been the late night guy, which also aligned with the years that I was generally going out and partying and drinking and stuff, and now being an early morning guy, they're both insane for their own reasons, but I would take the morning all day long.
Why?
So when you finish, it's one thing. Okay, there's a couple of reasons. I'd say one, there's a really nice feeling about, and I know you're a runner, so you're probably waking up early on weekends and stuff too. Right. There's something really nice about feeling like you're up before the entire city. Yeah. I'm driving down the Gardner, driving up Jarvis to go to the Rogers campus. Jarvis is an interesting drive at that time. It's just nice. There's no traffic on the road. Like it's 10 minutes for me to get to work, 30 minutes to get home, because by the time I get home, the world is up. There's something really peaceful about that. I've even done, and I don't necessarily recommend this, but I'll even sometimes do breath work in the car on the way to the studio. Eyes open, hands on the wheel, nothing like that. It's not full on, meditation, but I'm doing breath work exercises while I'm going to work, and it just puts me in the perfect headspace to go in with gratitude and do a show and lead with sort of the best part of me. So that's the first piece. The second piece is, the hard part isn't waking up and doing the show, because my job is fun. Like you enjoy doing this podcast. You love it. I can see it on your face. I can see it with your intention. I can see it with our interactions. I love my job. I'm so lucky to do my job, to host a legacy morning show. The hard part is going to bed the night before when I want to stay up and watch the Leaf game, or when I want to watch the Jays playoff game.
In the playoffs, I was going to ask you.
That's the tricky part. So that's when I'm like, when it's playoffs, it's like, okay, maybe you take a nap so you can stay up and watch the game. That's the part that's tricky. But having your work day done and being home by 11 a.m. and having the rest of the day is a beautiful thing. When you work late nights, even though you may not start till 5 or 6 o'clock, you don't truly ever relax because you still have to go to work. So it's not like I'm out on a patio having a drink, or I'm going to play 18 holes of golf. I'm always like, okay, got to get home to make the long drive. So I'd rather kind of get it out of the way early, if that makes sense. You know,
the most successful people on the planet wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock and they sort of just get their day started. And by the time the rest of us are settling into our day, they're already done.
There's also something really special about, you know, I know you feel it with your podcast too, when you meet people and they listen to your podcast and they stop you and they tell you like, man, your podcast really resonated with me. That episode on relationships really changed my life. Or, oh man, I didn't know anyone had that perspective. That was an internal thought I've never shared with anyone. And you or your guest felt that way. And now it feels okay for me to vocalize this. I'm sure that kind of stuff happens to you all the time. With the morning show, it's just special being a part of people's mornings, right? The routines are sacred. Morning routines are sacred. And I know, because when I take a day off or my co-host Pooja takes a day off, we hear about it on the text line. We hear about it in our DM. We hear about it on email. Where were you? Like, my morning's off. You didn't say this or you didn't say that. And I know I always have to leave for work every morning when you say this at this time, because I know if I'm not out the door by the time... So it really, to be ingrained in people's mornings and routine is such a beautiful thing. Like it's special, you know? When I left my television morning show, that was 4 years ago, people still come up to me. It happened yesterday. Someone stopped me in the street and like, I haven't watched that channel since you left. It's not the same. And why did you leave? And then I'm like, well, you can listen to the radio show. It's actually more fun. So it's quite an impact. It's kind of a gift, you know, to be able to impact someone the way you get to and the way I get to.
Well, if you had a television gig that was as impactful, why did you leave?
Great question. So my co-host Pooja and I, we weren't looking to leave. It was, I loved that job, and I'm so glad that I got to go through that. And the last thing I did at that, it was CP24, hosted the breakfast show there. It's a big news channel in Toronto. It's kind of like, for anyone listening to this who's not in Canada, it's, I guess, sort of like CNN for Canada. It's a 24-hour breaking news channel with a screen that's very busy and everything's happening on it at once.
And all the different traffic jams across the city.
Yeah. So the red tickers for breaking news. So I hosted the morning show there for years. It was the #1 rated morning show in Canada. Life was good. Was not looking to leave. And out of the blue in April of 2021, I got an email from a name I didn't recognize. It just said, hey, we're so-and-so from this company, and we'd love to have a conversation. 2-line email. Okay, sure, open to a conversation. Like, you've piqued my curiosity. And the next thing that followed was like a 8-page NDA that was like, sign an initial every page. And I was like, oh gosh, this is serious. And so this was still peak COVID, 2021. So it was like we jumped on a Zoom call or a Teams call with a couple of faces I'd never seen. And I'm racking my brain going, what TV show are they pitching me for? Is it an existing one? Is it a new one? My brain didn't even go to radio. And when they told me what they were thinking and they told me the radio station, I was kind of taken aback. And if I'm being fully honest, my initial, and I have a terrible poker face, so I don't know what their thought was, but I think I was disappointed when I heard it was radio, because my mind hadn't even allowed itself to go there. And my initial thought was, oh, okay, like, I'm flattered by the offer, but I don't think I'm going to take this. And we talked and auditioned on Zoom, my co-host and I, for 3 months. And I went from, if you graphed it at the beginning, I went from like not interested to kind of mildly interested to the more and more they told me about it, where they said, look, this is your morning show with your names on it. You have content control. There'll also be a podcast, and podcasts are my favorite medium, so that really spoke to me. You can also do weekly TV appearances on breakfast television. You'll have a digital team supporting you, plus, like all the things that news doesn't really allow you. So news was great, but I guess to give sort of a stock portfolio analogy, you're putting all your eggs in one basket with news. Because of conflict of interest, they really don't let you dabble in anything else in the universe. You can't be on other shows under the umbrella, lifestyle shows. Okay. You can't do brand partnerships. I wasn't even allowed to work with charities because they were worried about, okay, you're working with X charity. If this charity becomes embroiled in a scandal and it's in the news, your ability to report on it is compromised. Right. Because it's philosophically, I wasn't aligned with living my life that way. Like, don't try something for fear of it going south. It just doesn't compute. I'm very much a calculated risk taker. Like, I want to try new things. I want to push boundaries. I want to get out of my comfort zone. So this opportunity really started to make a lot of sense for me philosophically. And also with media, you know this, because this is not just a podcast. This is on YouTube. Where else can we find this?
Spotify, Apple.
Everywhere.
Air Canada.
Air Canada, of course. Yeah, next time you're flying. WestJet too, congrats.
Thank you.
the days of just being on one medium, I mean, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not hitting up your audience where they exist, right? So with TV news, it was just TV news. This job was filling every bucket from podcast to digital to radio to social to you name it, to television. So again, philosophically, this was very much aligned with me. So over the course of those 3 months, by the end, my co-host and I were at a point where we were like, so we went from not really interested to, if this doesn't happen now, I'm going to be completely gutted, because this is 3 months invested. We're meeting every week. We're talking. I'm learning more about this. I'm getting really excited. And thankfully the offer came through, and it was a great offer, and it's been 4 years now, and we're super happy. I was worried, if I'm being completely honest, I think part of me was worried about the vanity piece. I was like, you're on TV every day on the biggest channel in Canada. I could never leave my place without getting stopped by people at the grocery store, walking my dog out, whatever. And I'm not gonna lie, that feels really good when people can be mean on social media, but no one's ever mean in person. In person, they're not brave enough. They say they love you. So it's obviously it's great. It's, you know, my parents loved that, they were both medical doctors. They loved that their patients would come in and talk about how much they loved me, their son. It made my parents really proud. So I was a little bit scared to give all that up, because in my mind, and I think in a lot of people's mind before I knew radio, it's like TV is higher than radio on the hierarchy, I thought. And now, having been in radio and understanding the intimacy and the connection of audio, which you obviously understand, that's clearly not the case. Like, audio is powerful. TV is sort of to the masses. Radio is one-to-one. You might be in your car or in your AirPods going for a walk, and it's very intimate. It's very personal. Yeah. And that's an amazing thing. So we're forming new relationships with the same audience and with a newer audience, and it's just growing on what we already built. And now that I have the benefit of being 4 years removed from it, I'm so proud of what we did with that television show, taking it to #1. But that was really it in terms of evolving with my co-host and I. That was as far as we were going to take it. We put in more than a decade there. It was sort of accidentally the perfect time for us to get this offer and challenge ourselves with a new medium and get good at this new medium. And I feel like we have a lot of unfinished business still here with audio, right? Like, we're good. We want to get to great, and we want to stick around and conquer this. And then who knows what's next.
Was there a fear of doing such a big change in the middle of a pandemic?
To be honest, I think for me it was relief. Because I was, our roles on the show, the TV show, was I was the news anchor. My co-host was sort of the fun host. So she would host any celebrities that came in, musicians, actors, whatever. She would handle all those fun interviews. I was the quote unquote serious news guy who would try and interject my personality where I could. Because I mean, honestly, I'm not a hardcore news junkie. I'm a fun guy. I love improv. I love making jokes. I'm silly. I like to think I'm reasonably intelligent. Like, I love making my own quips and additions. And I think this is why now why radio is great for me, because it's much less scripted. Yeah. TV's 90% teleprompter and about 10% inject a soul, I like to call it. Radio is the opposite construct. It's 90% us, ad lib, active listening. While Samir's talking, I'm going, yes, and how can I build on what Samir's saying? Right. And 10% radio is 10%, hey, read these ad spots, or the obligation piece of that. But because COVID was at a point where, I guess if you could graph COVID, we left in the fall of 2021. So while we were still in the thick of it, it was definitely on the back nine, if you will, of COVID. So I felt like we sort of became a public service during COVID. And I felt like we had done our part. We had done our piece to sort of, I remember the early days of COVID where, I was interviewing an infectious disease specialist, and people were sending in questions like, can you ask him if I should be wiping down my groceries? And those crazy things we all did at the beginning, because we just didn't know. And the doctor, and I'll shout him out, Dr. Isaac Bogosh, awesome, level-headed approach, unbiased approach, and we're still friends to this day. He was so great in just guiding people through that, and I was sort of just his setup man. And I got so much credit with having no knowledge, but just being there to set him up. If you looked at our ratings every morning at 7:20, it would spike like crazy, because for those 10 minutes, people were like, I need to know about what this thing is, and this is the expert. He was like our Anthony Fauci, if you will, in terms of just the voice of calm reason. It was really cool to be a part of that. And I think when I eventually retire, looking back, that might be the greatest public service piece of my career when I look back at it. But, I was ready to move on. I was ready to be done with the hard, heavy, depressing news. And I guess the way I look at it now, and my co-host is the same way. She was never a hardcore news person. Like, we love that we can be the distraction, for lack of a better term. Like if you're sick of the news, which a lot of people are, and you want to feel good in the morning, you want to start your day with positivity, people kind of come to us. And I'm inherently much more aligned with that in terms of the feeling I want to bring people. So again, I always say we accidentally got out of news at the perfect time.
Why is it that the news only reports negative stories?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say only negative, but yeah, by and large.
Yeah, like that's the impression you get.
85-15 probably at least, right, in terms of split. The old saying in news, even the old news guys' days, was if it bleeds, it leads, right? And I mean, it's a crazy thing, and I think it's messed up, right? Had you heard that before? If it bleeds, it leads. Yeah, that's the very old news guy approach. And I think the appetite is completely changed, and I think it's why you saw pages in COVID like Good News Movement and Upworthy on Instagram. You saw those pages blow up, and I found myself consciously unfollowing pages that were just feeding me horrible things like break-ins and car thefts and constant
too much negativity.
Garbage. Yeah, it's too much negativity, and I found myself choosing to seek out these positive pages. Give me puppies. Give me puppies all day long. Give me dogs. Give me dogs doing hilarious things. Give me dogs in costumes. I say it into my phone to try and influence my algorithms. I don't know, man. It's not great. And while I like to stay on top of the news, I'll be honest, I haven't. It's almost like for a little while, it's like when you break up with a girlfriend, like you don't want to run into them for a while. You hope they're doing well, not too well. But you don't want to run.
Than you.
No, not better than you. I'm like, so occasionally I put it back on Channel 24. I'm like, how are they looking? Oh, okay, yeah, okay. She still looks good. Okay, yeah. But I think I sort of. I'm very happy to not feel like I have to watch the news to stay on top of it anymore. Now I'll read articles. I like to know what's going on in the world, but I'm not having to live and bathe and marinate in it like I used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The amount of changes that are happening in your life, is that something you embrace?
What do you mean?
The concept of change? Like going from one like what would be perceived as a very stable job and taking a risk on something that, on paper sounds incredible, the sense you got from the interviews and all that stuff, but it's still a significant change to your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Deciding to make a significant change to your lifestyle again with your health and all that, the concept of change. I've been thinking about that a lot recently because complacency is bad for you, right? If you get too comfortable in where you're at, you start to sort of slack behind. You don't put in enough effort in the things that you're doing. Is change something that you seek out, or is it something that you embrace when you see it coming, or are you resistant to it?
Definitely one to embrace change. I mean, if you think about life, even from like a biological form or approach, like we're born and we're constantly changing and growing and morphing and learning, and really we're changing until we die. And I hope that's the case for me. Mentally, physically, and spiritually. Like I think I'm a better person overall now than I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I know it sounds cliche, but I want to be able to say that. I think about, what am I going to be at 47? What am I going to be at 52? And so on and so forth. And you constantly hope that you're looking back and going, okay, I was pretty good then. I'm better now. And here's why. And, we're all sort of like an imperfect science. And there's no perfect person, but you like to try and get as close as you can to, fulfilling your potential, to showing up for the people that matter in your life. For, I know you're recently married. Congratulations. For being there for your wife, being there for your family if you start a family, being there for your parents, for your brother, your nephews, your nieces. That's why I do it. I want to be the best person I can. I want to reach my potential. And look, I mean, I'm very lucky, right? I live in a great city. I have a job that compensates me more than fairly. I've got my health. It almost feels like a missed opportunity if I'm not seeing through my potential. Like I've got the means financially, the time, I've got the intelligence, I've got the mind, I've got the drive to be better, to push myself. Why am I not doing it? Right. Some people don't have that. Some people this is an expensive city. Some folks, are working 7 days a week, working 2 jobs. Like jump in an Uber, have a conversation with an Uber driver. Yeah. That always, if I ever feel like, oh my God, I've bitten off more than I can chew. How do I do this? I'm doing so much, side hustles, this, that. Talk to an Uber driver. I just talked to a guy who moved here from Sri Lanka. He's working 7 days a week. He's got a wife and 3 kids at home. He hasn't seen them in a year. He's sending back money. He's sharing a single room in Scarborough with another guy who just moved here from Sri Lanka. And I'm listening to his life going, holy smoke, imagine having 3 kids and not seeing them for a year, and you're making this salary and sending back what you can while trying to also live here. was trying to be positive. I'm like, well, there's a lot of great Sri Lankan restaurants in the city. Anything stand out to you? Anything authentic? And he's like, I haven't eaten out since I've been here, because of course, dumb question. He hasn't eaten out because he's saving up money to send it back to his family. So I'm looking at a guy like that. Could he jump on and do this healthy, organic, holistic approach that I'm doing? That's, great for me. It's also very expensive. Can he do that? Does he have the time? Does he have the money? No, he doesn't. I've got those things. So for me to not use that, it feels like a missed opportunity, right? I think that's kind of the way that I look at it. Be your best self, get as close as you can to your best possible self. And I think when you hit a new summit, you're like, great, this is awesome, right? But, I think the way our happiness works is let's say you win the lottery. You're at a 10 in terms of happy. If I asked you won the lottery, how happy are you out of 10? You'd be like, I'm a 10. I just won millions of dollars. This is great. I ask you a year from now, your happiness level is probably not still going to be at a 10, because you've now adjusted to life as being a multimillionaire, and now you start to desire other things. Okay, well, what now? I kind of view self-improvement the same way. Like, I've got these micro and macro goals of where I want to be in 1 month and 3 months and 6 months, and how I want to feel in a year from now. That's awesome. If I get there, that's great. I will celebrate. I'll take a victory lap, but I'm not done, because I'll be at a 10 out of 10 in terms of happiness for hitting my goals. But ask me again in a year if I'm back on this podcast with you, and I'll say, okay, well, now you can't live in 10, just like you can't live in 1 if 1 is sadness. We're not meant to be sad forever. We're meant to be sad sometimes. You're not meant to be happy forever. There's that equilibrium, right? You always find whatever your new norm is, and then you try to sort of, you set your foothold there, and then you try to take one step higher, right? There's billionaires that are unhappy because they hang out with billionaires who have more money than them. So they think they're on the low end of the totem pole because their whole perspective is skewed, right? That's why I think it's important to talk to people who may be in a lesser fortunate situation than you, to reset your perspective sometimes. You can't just constantly be comparing yourselves to people. I love being inspired by people that are better than me. And I've got one of the things I'm really lucky for. I haven't met this special lady in my life yet, but my friend group is incredible. And they inspire me. And they're such smart guys, and everyone's in different sectors, and they've all really conquered their professions, and some of them have incredible relationships that I aspire to, and that makes me want to be better. When I hang out with them, I leave inspired, and I hope I have that same effect on them in some ways, that where maybe I'm better off than them in certain aspects. But I think it's important to have that, not to be envious of it, but to see it and be like, okay, cool. How do I get to there?
How do you cultivate that? There's a lot of guys out there who struggle to find meaningful relationships with other men that they can look at and go, you inspire me.
Yeah, that's a hard question, because I guess I've never really had too much trouble with that, being vulnerable, I've always been kind of an emotional person. I'd say probably a bit of a mama's boy, always very close to my mom, and I guess I'm lucky with this group of friends that I have. They're okay being vulnerable, and even if I'm not always the one to make the first move that way, the guys sometimes will say, "Hey guys, I've got this issue. Like I really need your thoughts on this," and they'll say something extremely vulnerable that'll hit me out in left field and go, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're sharing that with me, but you're bringing this to me, which means you think pretty highly of me in terms of, the tightness of our friendship and of this circle. So let's sit down and let's talk about it." And we'll work through whatever they're going through, and then it makes me want to share, and then it gives me that safety blanket to know they shared this with me, and I'm probably one of a few people to know this. I feel like next time I hit something that I don't want to internalize and struggle with on my own, I can bring it to them and I can tell them this. So if I had to reverse engineer it, I don't remember who the first one was who knocked down the door, but this friend group, and we have a group chat where ideally we're doing it in person, but we've shared things on the chat as well if we're not always together, where I think we just know it's a safe open door policy, and we can come to each other with anything. And it's been everything in my group from, marital issues to infertility, which a lot of people go through relationship issues, through, being at a crossroad with jobs. Like I talked to one of my closest confidants when I was going through this whole process in 2021. And I was like, do I make this move? This is like a massive move. What do I do here? So I feel really fortunate. I wish that for all guys, for women too. I wish you had friends that you can open up to and not have to struggle with things on your own. I mean, it's like free therapy, right? I mean, your friends can be like your therapists in a way.
Just the simple act of getting it outside of your own head.
Sometimes even
huge.
Just saying it. Sometimes even if you're just by yourself in your condo. I live alone with my dog. Sometimes just saying things out loud into the mirror, just getting it out. Just get it out of your head, get it out of your body, so you're not just battling with your own demons.
I can relate to that. The friend group, the WhatsApp group, the ability to sort of confide in these guys where it's a safe space, and each one will either lend a piece of advice or support, or will sometimes be the one to initiate something and say, hey, like sometimes I'll get a message from one of them. Well, it'll be into the group, and they'll be like, "Men, I just need 5 minutes. I'm going through something. Whoever's available, if you can give me a call, that'd be great."
Love that.
And then like if you say those kinds of words, immediately we know, okay, one of us is going to call, and we'll write, like we'll call or we'll write, be like, hey, do you still need someone to call? Maybe I see it a few hours later. Or if one of them calls, so we have this thing between us where if one of them calls, no matter what I'm doing, I'll pick up the phone, and if I can't talk, I'll say, hey, are you okay? Like, do you need to talk right now, or can I call you back? And we just sort of set that standard right off the rip, because then we know, hey, if this is serious, I got to pause whatever I'm doing to have this conversation and be present for you. If it's not, if it's something like, hey, let's go grab food, let's go hang out, whatever, then it's like, I'll give you a call a little later on. But having those group of guys there, knowing that no matter what you're going through, you have the ability to call one of them, text one of them, say, hey, I'm going through something, I'm not alone. It's huge. It's a game changer.
How often in your friend group is one of the guys, I don't want to say playing that card, but reaching out for help? Like, how often does that come up?
What's interesting is when I was going through my divorce, because I was initiating so frequently, I think it also encouraged them to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then as life kind of settled down a little bit, and it's funny because they all kind of settled down for all of us at the same time in a way.
Okay.
It was just sort of role reversals. So when something would pop up for someone, they would. But we've always made it also a habit to either get on a FaceTime if we haven't seen each other in a while, or we would go and, it's funny, we would have tea together. We would just like hang out, and instead of drinking, we would just have some tea, put on some music in the background, and we would just talk.
That's fantastic.
And it's just incredible. It's therapeutic. It's relaxing. You build real connection, real relationships.
You're not doing something bad for yourself. It's not like, hey, the old cliche of, let's go to the bar, let's sit at the bar and let's do shots of whiskey to talk over our problems. Like, that doesn't help anything.
Yeah. And then you wake up in the morning, you don't really even remember most of what you talked about because you drank so much.
Yeah. It's like, I felt like we connected in the moment, but how did we connect? I lost my father 3 years ago last week. And, the way my friends stepped up for me, like, and in that case, I don't even think I had to like reach out to say anything to the guys, like, hey, I need to talk. Like, obviously that's a code red, right? That's the thing that we all unfortunately go through in life at some point that nobody prepares you for, that the friends just instinctively knew, okay, we need to step up for G here. And they were there for me without me even asking. Right. So that was one of those moments that really touched me, and that I just knew, like, okay, these guys get it. I'm doing this no drinking thing now. We just had our reunion last weekend with my McMaster University housemates. We do it every year. And inevitably, when we get together every year, it's telling the same stupid stories from 20 years ago, which are hilarious. We cry laughing with all the dumb shit we did back in university. And I love these guys so much. There's 7 of us who live together, and we get together in Belleville. One of my buddies is a teacher. He hosts us. We go to the county. We have fun. This year, I was a little worried because I'm like, it's usually booze and it's pizza and it's bad food and all that stuff. And I'm like, I didn't tell any of these guys yet what I'm doing with this lifestyle kick. I packed a lot of my own food for the weekend. I packed solid goji protein balls and oat pancakes and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, part of me was like, are these guys gonna make fun of me? Are they giving me a hard time? And I don't know what I was stressing it for. Like, as I told them, I got there immediately. They're like, all right, let's have a drink, bust out the weed bevies, let's go. And they're like, gee, what do you want? And I'm like, I'm good, man. I'm actually dry. And it was like one of those the record scratch moments, like, what, you're dry? Like, what are you talking? And then I told them, like, yeah, guys, this is what I'm doing. And I actually brought some of my own food. Do you mind if I pop it in the fridge, actually? And I was waiting for it. And they're like, oh, that's awesome. Tell me more about the program. Like, what does it entail? What are you doing? This is really cool. And then I'm showing them the app, and I'm putting my stuff away, and I'm like, right, I'm not 28 years old, and this isn't going to be like a weekend entirely predicated on this, where the weekend's ruined if I'm not drinking. Everyone's 42. The guys all have kids. They don't care. They encourage the fact that I was doing what I'm doing, right? So
It's lovely.
Yeah, it's a nice thing.
You mentioned your dad. Were you guys close?
Yeah, we were super close, man. Yeah, Pops was the best. And this isn't one of those things where it's like, don't speak ill of the dead. Like, you only say good things about someone when they're gone. You wouldn't find a person whose life my dad touched who could say anything bad about him. Like, his funeral was standing room only. They opened up the entire place, and they couldn't get everyone in the door because all of his old, he was a doctor for 40 plus years. His patients, in the Indian culture, you don't really like send out an invite for a funeral. It's just word of mouth. If you find out, you show up. So I had no idea how many people were going to come because we didn't tell anybody when the funeral was or what the details were. And there were just so many people I'd never met, patients who were coming up to me saying, I was new to this country. I didn't know anyone. And this was happening with my family. And your dad, your dad was my doctor. He was my father's doctor. He was my child's doctor. And now my child is growing up and has gone to med school and is becoming a doctor because of your dad and because of the impact. Like, I'm meeting generations of families that whose lives he touched. It just crazy.
Gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, right. That's how I felt when I'm like, I wish I'd heard some of these stories when he was around. But just one of those dads who did everything for you, no questions asked. You're in a jam, would go pick you up. Okay, mom's going to freak out at this. Let's not tell her this one. Just tell me what happened. We'll sort it out. Like, just even keel, calm, never raised his voice, no word of a lie. And, the 39 years I had with him on the planet, never once heard him say a swear word. He didn't swear. He didn't, again, I'm not judging people who drink or do anything else, but he didn't touch booze, didn't touch anything. And it wasn't for religious reasons. He could have, it wasn't for him. So he was just the model of consistency. Yeah, man, we miss him a lot. My mom misses him a lot. It's a tough one, but I know my mom's not there yet with this because she's still struggling with it, and we all are. But I try to come at it from an approach of gratitude that we got that much time with him. And I always remember there was, there's so many hospital visits. It was brain cancer. It was glioblastoma, and he retired in January of 2022. Of course, my mom and him retired together. They had a practice and they shut it down and all these retirement plans. February of 2022, 1 month later, my mom calls me telling me he's having speech issues. And of course, that's terrifying. I'm like, my dad was treating patients a month ago and he's whip smart and now he's having trouble stringing together a sentence. Like, what the hell's going on? And it was worst case scenarios, glioblastoma, incurable brain cancer. He had 7 terrible months and we lost him. But, it taught me a couple things, I guess, that experience, which is like, if you have plans for retirement, if there's things you want to do, don't put things off, because it's so tragic that now he's lucky. He really loved his job. He loved being a doctor. It wasn't one of those things where he's counting down to retirement. He worked till he was 77. He really genuinely enjoyed his job. So it's just a bit sad that he doesn't get a retirement. And I know other people who've been through a similar thing, but I try to come at it from gratitude, because in all those hospital visits, in one hospital, and I want to say it was in Mississauga, it's hard to remember now because we were in so many, we were sharing a room, and they have this sort of a curtain between you and the other patient, with another Indian family. Their father had cancer, and it was his 3rd time having cancer, and he was 57. He was 20 years younger than my dad. And his 3 kids, who were like teens and 20s, would be coming in to visit their dad. And just like my brother, me and my mom would be coming in to visit our dad. And inevitably, you hear all their stuff. They hear all your stuff because it's just a curtain. And my mom became friends with his wife because just they're there all the time. Yeah. So they swapped numbers. They kept in touch. They tried to help each other out with things. If one was going for food in the cafeteria, they'd bring food for the other. And my dad got released, and my mom swapped numbers with her just to sort of keep in touch. And I remember one of his daughters was at McMaster, because she came in with if you went to McMaster, everyone had that maroon Mac hoodie, and she came in with that, and it made me pause, because I'm like, I had that hoodie. Everyone at Mac had that hoodie, and I remember wearing that religiously during my 4 years at Mac. And we got a call from the woman. Sorry, this is a bit emotional, this story.
Take your time.
we got a call from the woman, and unfortunately she lost her husband at 57. And it just made me realize, like, we got 78 good years of my dad, just seeing his daughter in that Mac sweatshirt. I'm like, if this could have happened to us 20 years ago, that could have been me coming back from McMaster, going through this, and I would have lost 20 years with my dad. So that kind of gave me the perspective of, like, you know what? My dad was a great man, and not everyone gets 78 years, right? It could have been a lot less. So that's been a powerful sort of learning lesson for me, or something I turn to when I'm in my feelings and feeling really sad about dad. And if you've lost a parent, you've lost a loved one, it's these, they say it comes at you in waves. I get it. It's so true. It's like, it's waves of gratitude. It's waves of sadness. It's waves of why did this happen? It's unfair. But for the most part, now I think I'm at a point where I just feel gratitude for having this relationship with him, right? And it wasn't a complicated relationship. There's no unfinished business. There's no, how did my dad feel about me? There's no, was he proud of what I did? I know he was proud. He told me he was proud. One of the last things I asked him was, do you have any, and I recommend this to anyone, if you're, you're going to lose a loved one, is to just have a conversation with them. My dad wasn't very verbal in his last few months because of the brain cancer, but on one of his few good days where he could put together a few words, I just sat down with him one-on-one and just said, is there anything that's on your mind, anything that you wish you had finished, or you unfinished business? Indian parents, they're not overly emotional. They don't tell you all the things. Like, Dad, is there anything you need me to do for you? Is there anything that's bothering you now that you're not going to be able to do it? And he just shook his head no. He's like, I'm good. And that gives me gratitude as well, because it's like, how many people can pass with seemingly no regrets, no big, overt, massive regrets, no big things looming over them, like, I wish I had done this, or who's going to take care of this? So that gives me some peace that he, passed peacefully and had all those good years.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a beautiful story.
Right? Yeah.
I think the ability that you have to look at it from a place of gratitude is fucking impressive.
It didn't happen right away.
Oh, I bet. And I bet that there are probably still days where sometimes you're like, fuck gratitude. I'm pissed off.
I have one of those Aura frames in my place, those digital frames that just, and it was actually the slideshow we put together at the funeral, which sounds sad, but it was all just really happy, good photos of my dad. And so when I was deciding what photos of my dad or the family I wanted in the thing, I said the funeral slideshow was beautiful. I found I just kept wanting to watch it even after the funeral. So I just put that on my Aura frame, and that's been cycling for 3 years plus now on a loop. So I see my dad every day, and you're right. Those feelings do sometimes creep in, but for the most part, I think I've been pretty good at approaching it from a place of gratitude.
Is there anything, knowing what you know now, this journey that you've been on over the course of your life, dealing with your father's passing, is there anything you'd want to say to him, if you could?
Thankfully, I also don't really have too many regrets that way, because in that last conversation we had, I kind of emptied the tank, said all the stuff that I wanted to say to him. I guess the one thing I wish I had done more when he was around is, my dad wasn't very, my dad had an incredible story, but he wasn't a talker or a storyteller at all. He wouldn't do very well in a podcast. He was a man kind of a few words. I wish I had been more intentional and forceful in pulling out some of those stories, because after he passed, he's got an older brother in Dallas, Texas, who is, I can't even believe they're brothers, because he's such a talker, he's such a storyteller. He remembers vivid details from their upbringing in East Africa, and he's got all these, I was like, he's telling all these stories about my dad from my dad was a kid, things. I go, what? I had no idea. My dad had a dog? My dad never really liked it. My dad had a dog? Oh, he didn't like dogs because he had a dog and he lost his dog when he was a kid. He had trauma with dogs, and he never explained that to me. My dad was just, no, you can't get a dog because I don't like dogs. No, he loved dogs. He just had this thing happen to him when he was a kid. I didn't know about it. All these stories started coming out, and I go, God, I wish I knew these, because I would love to hear these firsthand from my dad. I'd love to see the look on my dad's face while his older brother is telling these stories. Yeah. Is it embarrassment? Is it laughter? Like, what is it? So I wish I had had pulled a lot more of those out and maybe chronicled some of those. That's something I encourage you. If your parents are around, and your parents have a story, and don't let those stories go with them, right? Like sit down and you figure like, gosh, I was a journalist. Like I should have been better at this, right? I should have been better at chronicling this. That's my bad. But if you've got your parents around, if you've got loved ones around, like, take action, do these things because, it's a cliche, but tomorrow is not guaranteed.
I had someone on the podcast talk about, he's a director, Justin Wu. He talked about.
Oh, I love Justin. Yeah.
Oh, you know him?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
He talked about with his father, he basically just set up a camera and started talking to him. And it made me think about wanting to do the same because when I think about my father, he came from a civil war, a man of few words, would never do well on a podcast. I've even thought about bringing him in here.
You got to do it.
And just sort of having a conversation, even if it never gets released, it'll just be for me type of thing. I really do think that there's something powerful there because we often forget that our parents, they're living life for the first time, just like you and I are.
That's beautifully put.
And they had dreams and goals just like we do, and heartbreak and trauma and failure and moments of unbelievable happiness and moments of unbelievable sadness. And they went through all of that, and they were just trying to figure it out and do the best they could with the toolbox that they had. And in moments where I'm pissed off with my dad, or I'm annoyed because he's doing something, or, hey dad, when next time you go to a doctor's office, if I'm not able to be there, give me a call so at least I can talk to the doctor or hear what they say. Nope, just doesn't do it. That stubbornness about him. If that's the worst, I'm still winning. You know what I mean?
100%. You bring up such a beautiful point. And our parents didn't have all the tools we have to deal with what we're going through, right? I mean, therapy wasn't as normalized, right? It was a lot of internalizing emotions and swallowing your feelings and all that stuff, right? And you think about, when you hit an age where, I don't know how old your parents were when they had you.
They were 18.
18? Oh my God, they were so young when they had you. Okay, so your parents are young. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
My
fantastic.
dad, 18, 19, or 20, somewhere in there, but young.
Okay, that's really great. My dad was 40 when he had me, and I remember my dad's, 50th birthday when I was 10 years old. I have vivid memories, a little confetti, all those little 50s all over our kitchen floor and all that stuff. And, they always just seem like this entity that's, you can't hurt them. They're like superheroes, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to that age and I'm like, oh man, my dad was this age when he had me. And I'm like, I didn't feel at 40. I don't feel like now, like I have life all figured out. I don't know if you ever have life all figured out. And I'm like, how the hell did he deal with already having a kid at that age? I'm the second kid. He'd only been in the country for a few years at that point. Like, you realize you're going through all these things. I'm like, oh, was he feeling all the same weird things and insecurities and that I feel, or was it different?
No.
No.
It's wild. It's wild to think about what they've done and what they were able to accomplish just to get us to where we are, where we have the luxury of sitting on a podcast and have a conversation about how we're feeling about something.
Yeah. It really is. It really is kind of a mind-blowing thing.
So you're on this health journey. You're in what seems to be the sweet spot of your career. What are you not doing that you want to be doing?
I think the one missing piece, if it's going to come, is probably a partner, a girl that I don't want to say completes the picture because I don't feel like my picture's incomplete.
Complements it.
Yeah, and I was listening to one of your early episodes, and what one of the gentlemen said really resonated with me, and that I am super. It was an episode about relationships. Go check it out. My life feels really complete and really good right now. Like I'm really genuinely happy. I feel fulfilled. I feel content. I feel like everything's firing. I feel like I'm going. I feel like I'm moving and I'm accepting opportunities and I'm thriving. And I wouldn't, and this is what I always tell my friends when they're like, because you get to a point where I'm 42, they kind of, I'm at a point now where, in your 20s and 30s, everyone's like, when are you getting married? When are you getting married? But I'm at a point now where the questions are kind of tamping down. Even the older Indian aunties who used to harass me all the time aren't asking. And I'm like, oh man, that's a concern. Like I used to dread them asking me. Now I'm like, are you guys going to ask me? So it's like, if there were two paths, And one is my current path, which is you're going to stay single and you're going to be happy and your career's going to be firing and life is good and you have this amazing friend group and you get to do all these fun, cool things, travel and experience things. And that's one path. That's great. I'm super happy down that path. The other path is my current life, but add in an amazing partner. If those are the two options, I'm taking the amazing partner path all day long. But what I wouldn't take is the third path, which is my current path and a mediocre situation, which just brings everything down. Yeah. I only want to be with someone where our sum is greater than the parts, where I lift her up, she lifts me up, we challenge each other, we make each other better. There isn't complacency. Like I've been in enough relationships, good, bad, failed, toxic, whatever, that I know that they're work. Relationships are work. If you want them to be good, you have to put in the work. There is compromise involved. I recognize that I'm more stubborn now at 42 than I was at 32 and 32 than I was at 22. I recognize that I'm picky. I don't see that as a bad thing. I think it's a good thing because I don't want to be in a situation where, and I know you've been through divorce. It's not pleasant, I'm sure, right? Mm-hmm. I'd rather avoid that if I could. And I know it's 50%, man. That's a big coin flip. Yep. So I don't want to just do it for the sake of doing it. I'm content on my own. I say this not to sound cocky. I like myself. I love myself. I really do love myself as a person. And I think when you have that, you're okay on your own. But if I could complement that with someone else and share all these amazing experiences, these things I get to do where I generally invite a friend or my mom or a cousin or a date to these amazing experiences I go to, would they be better to do those with my person and experience that with them? Absolutely. I'd rather have that. Is it going to happen? I don't know, man. It's a crazy world out there. It's a crazy dating scene out there. So,
I keep hearing.
Hey, my sister-in-law, my brother got married at 23. My sister-in-law's the same age as him. And every time she's like, what's going on with girls? And I tell her, she sits down and she's like, this is exhausting. She's like, I'm so glad I met your brother and I'm not in any of this, because she couldn't handle it. So, I'm hopeful, but it's not something that I'm prioritizing, because if it doesn't happen, that's okay.
Yeah. That's a good place to be in.
Yeah.
And I don't think you should settle. I think you've got a good thing going, and you're right that relationships are a lot of work. And if you're going to put in that amount of work and sacrifice, then it's got to be for the right person. And I think a lot of people sometimes think that they need to have a person in their life. They have to have they're incomplete somehow if they don't have a person there. You can want that, but if it's not the right person, that'll actually make things so much worse for you. It'll affect every other area of your life.
It brings everything down, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
You just don't want to deal with that. Like life is short in some ways, life is long in some ways, but what I don't want to do is, if you can avoid unnecessary unpleasantness and unnecessary heartache and hardship, you can't avoid those for your entire life. That's part of life. But I don't want any self-inflicted hardship. Yeah. I want a situation where I'm like, I brought this upon me. I sought this person out and brought her into my life, and now this is blown up. You know?
Yeah, you don't want that kind of negativity.
Yeah.
Brother, thank you so much for your time.
This was great, man. Thanks for having me. I've been really looking forward to this, and you totally delivered.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much for being honest and vulnerable and open with me on this journey of yours. And I feel like we've known each other a very long time.
You and I met in a box at a Blue Jays game. We were there invited at an event, and there was 15 people in the box, and I tried to make small talk with everybody, but I got swallowed up in a conversation with you, and I was so happy to do it. I was not even paying attention to the game at one point, because I'm like, oh my God, I really resonate with this guy. This guy's awesome.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for saying that, and thank you again for making time to come and chat with me and to share your stories. And I'd love to do a part 2 as you grow in this journey of yours and see where things are moving and progressing for you.
Absolutely. We'll have to find a way to get you on the Pooja and Gurdeep Show podcast.
Yeah,
as well.
I'd love to. I think there's a ton of conversations to be had there on mental health and men's health and wellness and just life.
It's not as highbrow. We're pretty dumb on my show. But it's a nice change up pitch.
Perfect. All right, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Man.
Thanks, everybody.